lost consciousness, bleeding out. Aya
now. After Maidim tonight, there will be a shir in the presentation by Rabbi Greenberg. Everyone's welcome to join. Of course, there'll be beer and chant.
Okay, base. Can I have one volume Rambams? I want you to page this on over there.
What's their age?
Tonight is the siyum on Hilchos Isurei Bi'ah. You feel what page you're on that one? Perek base tonight, last paragraph.
And Moshe Klein wrote a nice story about it.
Who?
478.
478, page 478, Hilchos Isurei Bi'ah, Perek base, last page. Okay. Also, it's forbidden for a person to seclude themselves with an erva of the Aroyas. Now, any person with whom are married with the Yechiv Kares, a person is not allowed to be miyach with them. Like, for example, a married woman, whether she's elderly or young, because this is a possibility will lead to an Aveda. The exception is a mother with her son, even though that's also a Yechiv Kares. That's allowed, though. But a father with his daughter, that's also allowed for seclusion. But a man with his wife who's a nida, even though that's also a chiyuv kares, but that yichud is allowed as well. Now again, we're talking about seclusion, right? Not touching each other. A chasen, a person who 475, yeah, a chasen whose wife becomes a nida, 478. Sorry, thank you. A chasen whose wife becomes 22. A chasen whose wife becomes a nida before page 271 of that edition. A chasen whose wife becomes a nida before they have relations is what we call a chupas nida. So also he's not allowed to have relations. Seclude himself with her. Until she becomes Torah again. Each one has to sleep among their own genders. Today the meaning is a little different. They have a child in the apartment, I think. Different things that are done.
What is ayut?
Arayat means a forbidden relationship. That's a chiyuv kares. Like, for example, a person with a married woman. If what happened is they were together one time, and then afterwards the wife became a nida. In that case, he is allowed to be in seclusion with her. In that space already, he's already in a mindset where he's not going to. Oh, exactly. Right. Okay, good. Base. Generally speaking, Jewish people are not suspected of homosexual relations or of bestiality. Yeah, bestiality. Therefore, there's no prohibition of two men being secluded or a man being alone with an animal. If a person's careful not to have yichud, even two men alone, or even a person with an animal, he's praiseworthy. So it's meshubach if you don't own a dog, for example, because it's considered yichud. I think the Beis Yosef writes in Shulchan Aruch that in his community, in his time, men having sleep with other men, sleeping with other men was becoming a problem, and therefore the minhag was not to be careful. Was to be careful with yichud between men. The great chacham who were careful not to have yichud with an animal. This prohibition of yichud of seclusion with a person or an animal, for that matter, or not an animal. So I'm sorry, with a person who the relationship would be a chiyuv kares, like for example a married woman, that is in Gimel. When there was a story that happened with Amnon and Tamar, David HaMelech's a son who raped his half sister Tamar. Then they came, they said along, even though that there was no problem to be miyachid, to have seclusion with a single girl, and never exactly. So that again, ever is a person who
was like a riot.
A prohibition of relationships to the chiyuv kares, like a married woman, for example. I'm sorry. Yeah. So they made a decree that even with a non-married woman, a person should not seclude themselves, because that's what brought to the problem over there. Alpha Pisha ain't never. They should not never. The Chal Yichudai, the Chacham included it. His best, he made it under the umbrella of seclusion of Arayis. The Shama Vehilo goes on Yichud.
No, I don't know.
What happened was over there that David HaMelech's son Amnon for his half sister. He pretended he was sick and he had her serve him and he raped her.
He wasn't sick.
Right, he pretended he was sick. Yeah, she served him and then he raped her. Yeah. And then then she took revenge on him. It says in the Farshim, she castrated him.
And then his brother was.
Yeah, right. There was a revenge. It was a bad story. Actually, that's when they were going to the Isser of Yichud.
And he could have married him.
Right.
It would have been okay.
Oh.
And David would have allowed him.
Right. She told him that.
Yeah.
She told him that. Yeah, right. Yeah. She Tanakh. So and then now that at that point in history, you're still Yichud with a non-Jewish woman was still allowed.
We have goyim in our.
Goyim says, okay, yeah. Okay, so the yichud of two people opposite gender, one of them is not Jewish. Well, no, sorry, a Jewish man with a non-Jewish woman. That is from the Bezin of Shammai and Hillel. It doesn't say why.
How do we know it's a woman though? It could from the way it's written, it could be like just not allowed to be in the room with a guy.
No.
Here it says kusis, so I don't know. You're right. So, the Gezer always said this around men, what they can and can't do. That implies the women as well. Anyway. Now it doesn't say why exactly history at that point. I think it says, I'm sorry, yeah, at that point the social interaction Yidden Goyim was much more common until that point. Therefore, they stepped up to the plate and they said that we have to make it easier yichud with Goyim as well. Then it turns out if a person secludes himself with a woman he's not allowed to seclude himself with, Ben Yisrael is Ben Kusis, whether it's a Jew or not. What's by you? Again, Goy?
Ben Israelis or Goya.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's a female Goy. They both get Malchus with Rabbanon. Both of them, and we make an announcement. These two people are not correct by secluding. This would deter people from doing this bad behavior. The exception if she's a married woman. Also, even though a man is not allowed to seclude himself with her, in this yachid, if it is seclusion, ain't like you don't give malchus to her, or you don't give malchus. Exactly, because we don't know for sure they were together. But that didn't happen. Hopefully, right? And to go and now make a rumor that she was Mizana and make some Zedrim just because she was Avis and Rabbanon, that's not ideal. I mean, or even as Matt if she's a married woman, it's a Mikveh we said a lot of base. But still, we don't want to put this rumor on the kids for no reason. Some say that you give malchus to the man, not to the woman. The Rambam sounds like you don't give malchus either. Then people will find out who the woman was. All right, anyway. Any woman who you're not allowed to seclude yourself with, if his own wife was with him, so let's say me and my wife and then a married woman, and it's permitted, the man's wife will guard him not to step out of line. However, that should not a Jewish woman should not be yachad with a non-Jew.
Yeah,
with a guy. Yeah, even though his wife is with him, because a guy's wife doesn't have as much discretion or embarrassment to guard her husband from doing something, stepping out. More free in this regard, so to speak. We can, as a chesed, therefore, a Jewish woman should not be mishachad with a non-Jewish man, even if the non-Jewish man's wife is with him. Hey. She should not give a Jewish child to a non-Jew to teach him a academic concept or to teach him a trade. Because we have to suspect about homosexuality. The aim, exactly, pedophilia. You should not put an animal in a place where a guy is living, in a guy is in. I feel as a charm, that's a charm that gives as a case, even if you're giving a male animal to a male guy and a female animal to a female guy. So a male animal to a male guy, we're afraid he's going to live with the animal. And you can't give a female animal to a female because we'll see soon that we're afraid that when a Goyish man comes to be with his girlfriend, she's not going to be available and the animals there available. Okay. You don't give an animal of any kind, domesticated or wild or bird, to a Goyish shepherd. I feel as bird too. People have all kinds of weird imaginations. I feel as the harm the kut and the caves and the cave. The is even if you're giving over again a male to a male and a keva to a keva. There are about living with animals. These are things that were actually common in the non-Jewish world, in the times of the Gemara. And we already said that goyim are not allowed to live with an animal or with another male. But it says, now put a thumb back from the blind. So by you putting the goy in a situation where he's going to transgress this prohibition, it's not allowed. Zion. But we have an obligation to make sure a guy doesn't be able to shave mitzvahs, and we can't be machshana. Why can't you give a female animal over to a female guy? Because the assumption is they all are promiscuous. When the guy comes to live with this non-Jewish woman, he might not find her. So we'll use the animal instead. Even if he does find her live with the animals, like upon him, we don't want to make anything extra than we have to. All right, like you see Bilam, it says Bilam with his donkey. That was their relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
But it wasn't a donkey; it was a female donkey. Atana.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
What homosexuality?
So no,
Right,
bestiality.
female
It says of the end. I think Rashi Chumash, right? It says that. Yeah. All right. Ches.
You might think it's only back then, but they now they want to pass laws.
Sure. All kinds of, and it depends on what kind of society you grew up in parts of the world.
So basically, you can't have a guy working in a shlachtas.
No, if it's not seclusion, other people there. He can't have it by himself. Right? Yeah, he shouldn't be by himself. All right. Ches. So in other words, as Pesach comes, you want to sell your dog to the guy over Pesach. This way, you don't you chametz. It's not so posh. You have to ask her up. All right, Ches. One woman should not seclude herself with a man, even many men. Unless one of their wives is there, she will keep things under
she marries
control.
one of the men.
No, unless if one of their wives, One man shall seclude himself with many women. If there's many men and many women, I guess it means at least 3 of each. At that point, or maybe even 2 of each. At that point, there's no problem with yichud. What if you have like an arrangement where you have an outer room and an inner room? And the men were the outer room, the women were the inner room, or vice versa. But the point is that they're separate rooms. And one of them goes to the room of the other. At that point, they
even though there's several men around, several women around.
It's not that room, exactly. The problem is going to the other room, that's yichud. Even a man whose business is with women, also he's not allowed to spend himself with women. So you might think that, well, if it's his job, he's busy b'malach. We said yesterday that when a person's busy in their occupation, their mind is focused on that. So the truth is, over here we don't say that. What you do? He should do his business while his wife is present. She should be the receptionist, so to speak, right? So he's not alone. Or find a different job.
Test. If you're a plumber, you have to bring your wife along with you.
If it's at night, if it's an issue. In other words, if it's a context where there's yichud. Yeah, exactly, basically. Exactly. Yes. What does
does Bi'ah Ch work the other way?
We'll talk, but Bi'ah Ch we didn't talk about yet. So, and again, that's more something a Shulchan Aruch question. But basically, I think the answer is no. Test. Person is allowed to be yachid with 2 women if they are yavamis. They're both married. They both were 2 wives of a guy who passed away, and they're both waiting for potential
yibum. Same guy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Or 2 people who are married, women who are actually married currently to the same person. A woman and her mother-in-law. Or a woman and her stepdaughter. Or a woman and her daughter-in-law's daughter. No, sorry, her sister-in-law. Her mother-in-law's daughter. Thank you. Yeah. Because these people don't like each other. They don't cover up for each other's mistakes. If you do something wrong in front of them, they make sure everyone knows about it. Even though we said one man and 2 women is a problem, with these 2 women it's not a problem because if anything happens, they will not cover up for each other. A woman is allowed to be a man can seclude himself with a woman if there's a child with them, as long as the child is old enough to understand that something's going on over here. And she's not going to let herself do this in front of the child because the child's going to start talking. She said, right? She's not going to be in front of the child. He's going to keep the secret. He's not going to keep the secret. Kids talk. Yud. A young girl who's younger than 3 years old, or a boy younger than 9 years old, there's no problem with yichud. The only issue of when all the issue of yichud in all these contexts only if the age of a woman who's shayach for bia, which means 3 years or older, or a man who's the age of bia or older, which is 9 years old. And is a person who has both features of male and female. And he's not with women because he has a desire for females. It says if he does, you don't give him makas because it's suffix. If it's you don't give him makas matreda, but the makas madras, I'm not sure why they don't give him if he's transgressing the issur of yichud. All right. Yeah, but the suffix means you don't give him makas matreda because he says he's chayav. But the chum Interesting. Okay. In other words, the Gezerah wasn't specified to an androgynous. They just made it in general because we're not. It sounds like we're out of suffix if even the ism that Rabbanan applies to him. That's what it sounds like. A man could be miyach with an androgynous, or with a tumtum, someone whose skin is covered over, so you can't tell what his gender is, because men don't have drive for such type of people. Mid base. Right, this is what you mentioned before. A woman whose husband is local. There's no problem. Her husband's fears upon her. Maybe he's gonna walk in. The fact that he's even not in her house necessarily. The fact that he's in the city, it creates a certain sense of awareness. The gospel. If there are this man who is being over yichud, there's someone who's very familiar with her. When she got, even if they grew up together, or their relatives. Then even if the husband is in the city, it's still a problem. Someone who secludes himself with a woman, and the door is open to the public way, because there's someone coming any minute. So the fact that it's open, you can't see the entire house entire time, but that creates a certain transparency. And the pasuk say a window is also good enough. Again, it depends how high the window is, etc. All right, you give a person who doesn't have a wife. You should not teach young girls or children.
Young children.
Young children, yeah. Because the mothers come to pick the child up from school, becomes familiar or tempted by the women. A woman should not teach young boys. Again, the fathers come to pick up their sons. That's going to cause a problem of yichud. Now, the person, the malamed who's teaching children, doesn't have to have his wife with him, mamish, in the. So we said if he's married, though, it's okay. Now, does that mean his wife has to be with him in the school? The answer is no. As long as he's married and she's in the house, he could teach wherever location that he is. And the question is, does this location mean in the same city, or can it even be out of town? So the past can have a machlokes about that. Some say it has to be in the same city, and some say that it's okay.
You used to go in. One used to go in for a whole year.
Yeah.
Someplace else,
Yeah. So some say it's okay even if it's another, as long as he's married, even if it's a different city. All right, you doubt. You gotta remember that back then the bathroom was like an outhouse in the middle of the field. It wasn't like a room in the house, right? Or in a building. You say that women should talk with each other in the bathroom. So that everyone should be aware who's there, and that no man should come in because of yichud. Tesvav. I guess there was multiple sections in this like a communal bath outhouse, right?
And man can go in, or woman go in.
So what's he's talking with each other? One's inside, one's outside.
Make noise. If it's noisy, the man won't go in there.
The part is that
we are not allowed. Men are not allowed to chat, but women are encouraged to.
Men are not allowed to. You say.
No, but over the chatting is not for the sake of chatting. They want to create noise.
So the part is if you have a conversation with somebody, then you know who's who, and I guess a man can't pretend to go inside at night or whatever it is.
Since you're both using the same outhouse, and he hears no noise coming from there, so he's bound to go in.
Bathrooms labeled by gender. It's not like we have today,
not in those
right?
times. It wasn't just an outhouse.
So they don't know.
So that's right. So he's bound to go in. So if he hears noise, he'll stop.
You say the board is to keep him away.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, interesting. Tesvav. You don't appoint even a very faithful kosher person to guard a courtyard where there are women. He's on the outside. Nobody can be a guardian and guarantee against a rayas, right?
But the kings used to do that. Hashverosh did it. He said he had eunuchs.
He's not Jewish.
No, but he had eunuchs, because what was the whole fear? That God would have a relationship with.
Right.
So in order to make sure God doesn't have a relationship with one of his wives,
okay,
right, or one of his maidens, there was a eunuch.
But we have an also directive to make a eunuch.
No, so, right, exactly. Here the vart is if you hire a male security guard for a girl's dormitory, you're asking for trouble. That's the vart, and history has proven this. I'm saying that's the vart.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll say even more.
More than trouble. Boss.
You have also teachers and whatever.
Yeah, right. Also, okay. Yeah, the AF double side right is a very, very serious thing, right? No one can guarantee from all these young. But also, a person is not allowed to appoint a supervisor in his house. So that's going to make his wife act inappropriate, as we see by Yosef and Potiphar. Test Zion. Also, the Talmud Chacham Mishkan B'chot Sheish Ba'amana. A Talmud Chacham is not allowed to live in a courtyard where there's a widow. Now, there's Dafka, a widow, and it doesn't say a woman who's not married or a grusha. I'm not totally sure why. I can find him that he says a grusha. Amana, excuse me. He's not going to do any yichud. It's the same courtyard, but there's no seclusion. Because that's not appropriate. Talmud Chacham should not be such a context.
Right.
But it doesn't say.
Yeah, but why the Rambam using
Yeah.
that?
So the truth is,
What's the right?
because I think the standard context of a previously married person in Chazal uses the word almana more than grusha. That's what I think.
The rabbit has a gar on it.
Yeah, what does he say?
If shall paritz al be doisef shelo amru chachamim ella shelo exactly. So Isaac said. So okay, that's exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but unless his wife was with him in that courtyard. The almana is not allowed to raise a dog. Again, because of the same suspicion. I imagine this means a male dog, but I don't know.
Well, by a female.
Yeah. As opposed to a female dog.
I remember Ravama once came out of Hope Sock with that many years ago. But when Marlowe, when the certain girls approached him about it, he said, "No, you cannot have a male dog."
Yeah, it's become a Machlan Crown Heights thing now that everyone has dogs, no? So I think now a woman should not have male slaves. I feel katana, even minors. Again, the same shot. I'm sorry. So what does the Ravid say? Can I see it again? What's the Ravid's point? So. He said the Rambam stepped out of his boundaries, so to speak. So he's asking him. Okay. He said he shouldn't be a guest by her. The Ravid is arguing, saying being a guest by her is a problem. Living in the same house is not a problem with the Ravid. Okay. Yud Zayin. This is very interesting. You don't teach the secrets, in other words, whatever is not specific and clear in black and white in Shulchan Aruch, or in the Torah rather, actually says it on the Chumash, you have to sort of learn it from your teacher. You don't teach it with 3 students.
It's very interesting. It has the same rules for Kabbalah.
Oh no! Look what it says. If when you have, sorry, so Shlosh includes the teacher. I'm sorry. Is that what you said? 3 includes the teacher. So the teacher and the 2 students, that's not a problem.
That's because Rashi and the Mishnah and the Giga.
Oh,
it's the same thing for Kabbalah. They give the same rule.
Yeah, that's a little different reason. That's because over here, one of the students of the 2 students is going to be asking the question. So I made a mistake. The 3 is 3 students. So 1 teacher and plus 3 students, so 4 total people. So the guy is asking his question. The other 2 people are going to be talking with each other and discussing the lesson. They're not going to hear the answer. And what's the problem with that? Because the person is biased towards leaning towards Arayas. If the 2 guys who weren't paying attention to the teacher-student conversation are saying, this case, is that okay, not okay? They're going to say, probably it's okay. So they weren't listening. If you have only 2 students, when Ruvain is asking the question, Shimon has no one to talk to. He's basically listening. So therefore, it's not going to create a problem. If you have Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi, then Ruvain asks the question, Shimon and Levi doesn't start talking, they're both going to miss the answer, and they're going to be murder heter. Therefore, you'll have to have 2 students at a time. Of course, 1 is probably also okay. 1 or 2, not more.
Schools where there's
because the one student is not participating in the conversation, we should at least listen and hear what the answer is, if it's okay or not okay. I'm sorry, what?
In schools, there's like 10 to 20 children. These halachas are not taught.
Yeah, but they don't usually teach kids in Cheder these type of halachas, right? For the most part, as far as I understand.
Older.
The Rebbe writes, if a child has questions, it should be under 4 eyes. And he says it also in
under 4 eyes?
Yeah, like in an appropriate setting, never in a classroom.
Yeah, interesting.
What about yeshiva?
What do you mean by yeshiva?
Until the time that it's necessary.
This is talking about a shear. If you're giving a shear, when can you or can you not be seclude yourself with a woman? That the members of the audience should only be 2 or less. That's what he said.
It says and Dorshin Besisrei rights.
Right. Sisrei means the things that are not obvious. So it says clearly in the Torah base.
The nuances.
So Rashi says it refers to those things that are not explicit in the Torah. All right. So not just yichud, b'chalal rights, right? Can you marry this person, marry that person? All right. You test. Chama said, goes over eyes, stealing money and. I'm sorry, thank you. There's nothing in the entire Torah that's so difficult for most people to be careful about. It's the most difficult thing is forbidden relations. B'shashin Estav Yisrael Alayis. When the Yidden were given the commandments of not having forbidden relations, Bachu they cried. The Kibbutz Mitzvah B'Terminus of Bechia they accepted it begrudgingly, so to speak, and crying. But it says of crying by their families. Regarding the matter of family context, that was something that the Yidden accepted begrudgingly, so to speak. In other words, was begrudging, but it was with an awareness. It's not going to be an easy one, right? The test. Rama said, "Goals for
That's because a lot of these relationships were permitted before Matan Torah.
Right,
you don't know what the dogs used to look like.
That's also true.
Huh? No, but that's the problem.
Goals for
No, not the dog. I know, but
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not relatives. There's certain things that were permitted before Matan
Yeah,
Torah.
that's true as well. Yeah, goals about say you test. Goals about is stealing and promiscuity. Now, if Adam is a person naturally desires them. The Ein Atem Meitzei Kahal B'Kol Zman B'Zman is never going to have a community at any time. She'ein Behem Pertin Barayis V'Misasuras. There are some people who are not careful about this matter, even in the religious community. The Oidam Chachamim also said, most people steal, right? You know, most people either go to mikvah without paying or do something which is dishonest financially. Miyot Barayis and the minority are involved in forbidden relations. Everyone is saying things about people they shouldn't. This is it's a Maimer Chazal. It's Maimer Chazal.
Lashon Hara, nobody's.
It's not
God never brings that in Tanya. That's one of the things that you're not protected from.
Right, exactly. So this is something that people are over. And as he said about Lashon Hara, the truth is it says Lashon Hara itself is one of the things people speak every day.
Lashon Hara sort of serves to protect the other two, though. Right.
Okay, interesting point. All right, a person should go out of his way to subjugate the Yitzhar in this matter. To conduct himself, to familiarize himself and habituate himself, with extra kedusha, holiness, and pure thought, and proper perspective, to be saved from them. Right, so don't go to the edge of the cliff. Keep yourself back a few feet. Be careful of seclusion. That's the main thing which causes all the problems. Right? Nobody's over Isurei in public. The first thing the person does wrong is yichud. Great chacham would tell their students, watch me, be careful with me, scrutinize me. I shouldn't be doing the wrong thing because since my daughter's here. Be careful because of my daughter-in-law. Teach their students they should not be embarrassed about this. And be clear about right, exactly. These stigmatizing Russians. And the Gemara in Kedushin, apparently, Daf Pei Beis on the base says that one of the Talmidim of Meir was making like a snide comment on Meir. He's like, Frumkeit, and they found this Talmud was inappropriate with his mother-in-law. Chaf Aleph. Yeah, the Talmud who was being snide about this. Chaf Aleph. Yeah. Zalman finishes off the halachas with like a mission to Gavart. A person should be stay far from frivolity and silliness and flirtation. Yeah. Right. Sorry. Shikush is intoxication. Agavim is flirtatious. Yeah. These are the things which cause and lead to arayis. A person should not live without a wife. You said this causes a person to be extra tatter if he has a wife his entire life. So even though his wife passed away, let's say she get married. More than all this, the Chum say, a person should turn himself and his thoughts towards the Torah. That's the most important thing. And expound his mind with words of wisdom. Because the thoughts of promiscuity only take hold of a heart that's empty from Chachma. The Chachma says, and this is down here, he brings up a pasuk Shashim that describes how good Chachma is. But it says, Ayelas ahavim vayalas chein, the beloved deer.
No, it's from Mishlei.
Thank you. Yeah, never mind. I made a mistake. Mishlei, the beloved deer, D-E-E-R, 2 E's, that is. Yalas chein and beloved favor. Should be satisfied at all times. But you should obsess with their love forever. So you see that he's saying not just that Torah is good to pursue, but that Torah will satisfy that need. That's the real love. Exactly. Don't you have to? That Torah will satisfy the
Better understand metaphorically.
Oh,
you better understand the metaphor because if not, you're finished.
Well, so it's saying the pasuk shot is to find a wife who you like, right? But that's also a good idea. But saying that's also that the need for that can be satisfied by Torah.
I'm saying the pasuk in Mishlei. If you don't understand